Call it a party? Not a party so much as just anybody who wants to show up. I did invite you, you just don't know it yet.
How this works.
Okay. Well, hello, welcome everyone to this pre-Memorial Day weekend ITS seminar. I'm very paying attention. I'm very pleased to introduce today's speaker, Dimitris Milakis, who is currently at UC Berkeley in the Institute of Urban and Regional Development and is a Marie Curie Research Fellow there. So he's been there about September and will be departing come about this coming September. He prior to Berkeley, he was in Athens at the National Technical University of Athens, and actually when he leaves Berkeley, he's not heading back to Greece, but is instead going to be at the Technical University in Delft, where we have a lot of ties between Davis and Delft. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dimitris, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about bicycling in Greece.
Grab it here. One, two, three. Is it okay? Maybe there. Okay? Okay, that's fine. So, thank you very much, Professor Handy. It's really an honor to be here with, I could say, two of the most influential professors for my research on land use transport interaction, Professor Handy and Professor Mokhtarian. But today, I'm not going to talk about my land use transportation research, but I'm going to talk about my cycling research back in Greece, what I did before I come here. And for that reason, I have bring together two of my studies, which were completed back in 2011 and 12. And they have conducted separately, but I bring them together because I think they tell a nice story about cycling in Greece. So first, I would like, before entering the details of the study, I would like to give you a brief overview of the Greek cities and the urban and transport context there. So Greek cities, I would say, represent a typical example of the paradox of intensification according to Melia. This means that they have high densities, very high density. In some cases, we reach about 700 to 800 persons per hectare. That's a huge number for the US standards. We have also mixed land uses there, but contrary to what we would normally would normally expect in theory, we have also excessive car use and low shares of walking and cycling. Walking about 9 to 10%, and cycling about 1%. And we could attribute this to the extremely limited infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists, but also to a fundamental choice for car promotion during the last 20 years. For example, car ownership has increased about 170%, car passengers kilometers about 190%, and highways length about 500%. However, there are two interesting stories going on in Greece during the last, let's say, 5 years. The first one is an interest of younger age social groups about cycling, and they do demonstrations and they blogging about it, and they promote cycling through social media and demand from the central government to promote cycling and provide more cycling infrastructure. The other development is that some small, mainly and medium size in regional areas in Greece have created some cycle routes like this you saw here, and some cycle networks, not big cities in Greece. However, the success of these stories is totally dependent on the public acceptance of cycling in Greece. So maybe this would also encourage the central government to promote a broader strategy for sustainable mobility in Greece. So the question here is, will Greeks definitely cycle, and finally, where would they prefer to cycle? And I have the opportunity to explore the first question back, I think it was 2011, when one of the largest cities in Greece, Patras, I think it's the third largest city, announced its intention to build one of the first comprehensive cycle networks in Greece. But before that, and enter the details of the study, let me travel you to Patras from Wusterhall. I don't know. I can't travel you because that's another. That's a Wusterhall actually, and I had a video here, but doesn't work. But doesn't matter. So I can describe you the city of Patras. It has a population of about 170,000 people, a residential density about 100 persons per hectare, and as most of the regional cities in Greece has experienced a rapid motorization, car ownership has surged to 370 and 58 cars per 1,000 inhabitants. The bus trips have declined, and bicycle trips was 0.8% in 1993. I don't have data from 2009, but I don't have a reason to believe that the situation is different. And also the national level data about cycle use is about 1%, so we expect the bicycle share to be about 1%. As regards the cycling network, they announced about 33 kilometers and comprise routes connecting neighborhoods with the central area of the city, and also a coastal area route, mainly for recreational trips. According to the plan, the cycle routes will have a width about 2 meters and will be separated from the rest of the traffic, as you can see in this cross section. So I used social psychology methods and theory of planned behavior in particular to explore the intention of the Patras inhabitants to use the new cycle network. The theory of planned behavior, or TBB if you wish, is one of the most successful tools in exploring human behavior. And according to this theory, behavior depends on the intention and the perception of control we have over a specific behavior. Intention, on the other hand, it depends on 3 factors. We call it TBB factors: the attitude towards the behavior, namely the positive or negative evaluation of that someone has over a specific behavior, the subjective norm. It is the social pressure that we feel we accept from our environment. And finally, the perceived behavioral control. This is the self-efficacy, the ability we feel we have to perform a specific behavior. There are also numerous other background factors like age, ethnicity, or gender, or environmental awareness that indirectly affect behavior through the TBB factors. So what I did in my research is I used random digit dialing to conduct about 307 interviews. I defined my sample size using power methods, and I had a response rate about 29%, which is pretty good for a random digit dialing method, given that we see the rates declining during the last years. As regards my questionnaire, It comprised 4 sections and 50 questions in total. The first section was about the intention of the inhabitants to use the new bicycle network. The second section was about the factors affecting intention directly. This is the TBB factors. The third section was about the factors affecting intention indirectly, like environmental concern, attitude towards the effects of car use, the car itself, and the alternative means of transport, and of course the socioeconomic profile of the respondents. And finally, the fourth section was devoted to the mode choice habit. I did I performed two rounds of stepwise multiple regression with backward elimination. The first round was about the relationships between intention and the TBB factors, and the second round was about the influence of background factors to the most statistically significant of the TBB factors. Now, as regards my sample, I had a slight overrepresentation of women, people with higher education, and younger age groups, and this probably had an effect on my results, but I'm going to comment on that later. And this is the results as regards the attitudes of the inhabitants of the city of Patras. I saw that they are concerned about the environment, and also they feel that car does not save so much time anymore, and they are also concerned about the cost, especially the maintenance cost of the car, and this is expected, especially during that period in Greece. But they do feel that car has functional advantages, still has functional advantages like carrying capacity, safety, and autonomy, but they do not feel that a car adds to their prestige, or it is fun and joy to ride a car, to drive a car. As regards the alternative means, they feel that they are more economic and they are stress-free, but they do feel that cycling is still dangerous in their city. As regards bicycle habit, actually we didn't find that there is bicycle habit in Patras, and this makes sense. With only 1% of cycling, there's no reason that we would find a bicycle habit there. Yeah, we use the response frequency model, which requires the respondent to respond quickly in questions about the mode he chooses to usual destinations, like what you choose to go to your work. So he has to respond quickly about if you choose car, bicycle, or so without much thought. That's the model I used. Now, as regards the intention, we found that the Patras residents have quite high intention, 5.3 on average on a 1 to 7 response scale, and we saw that about 38% stated max intention, and as regards the factors affecting intention, we saw that the PBC, the perceived behavioral control, namely the sense of people that they possess the means, the ability, the opportunity to use the new bicycle network is the most important factor. Also, attitude has a positive connection with intention, but with a quite lower effect. We also found that habit, and especially social norm, seems that it's not an important factor for intention. And I think here we have the first interesting result of the research, because normally in studies in Northern Europe, where well-developed networks and exist, and a well-developed cycle culture, social norms seems to play an important role on the intention to use the new cycle network. Also, Professor Handy and Heinen, in their research about Delft and Davis found that social norms do play an important role in environments like Delft and Davis. Here, in an environment where there's no cycle culture or cycle infrastructure, it seems that people prioritize their safety and their ability to perform the behavior. So actually they need more, first to have the infrastructure there, and then to think what others would say about this specific behavior. But in any case, I do believe that we need more evidence here, and especially international comparisons to get deeper to the parameters, the factors that affect intention, and design policies accordingly. Now, as regards the factors that affect PBC, based on the results, I have identified three main barriers for cycle use. The first, I named it the bicycle possession barrier, because it seems that somebody that has a bicycle possession is more confident in using the new cycle network, and that's why we have a positive correlation here, positive connection here with perceived behavioral control. The other barrier, it seems, I call it the gender age barrier. It seems that women and older age group has lower PBC. Seems that, and I think that there is a safety factor behind the age and gender, because there are several studies that they have proved that there is a connection between cycle use, perceived safety, and cycle infrastructure, especially among underrepresented populations like women and older age group. So, and the third barrier I have seen here is I call it the car barrier. It seems that we have a group of committed car users that they don't even enter to a cognitive process of assessment of the obstacles or the advantages to use a bicycle. So it seems that car itself here is a barrier to use a bicycle. And I have confirmed that in the second round of regression as regards attitude, where I found here, I have to point it. Yeah. I have also found here a negative relationship between the car instrumental motives. Yeah, this group focused on the car instrumental and car affective motives, and I found here that both have a negative relationship with attitude. It seems that we have a group here of hardcore car users. And that's that with the results. And I will summarize now. In my research, I saw that a large segment of Patras citizens is disposed to use the new bicycle network. The intention to use it is affected by two mainly parameters: the means, ability, and opportunity to use bicycles, the PBC factor, and to a lesser extent, the evaluation of benefits, advantages of cycling, that is, attitude. I have identified three types of barriers associated with PBC: the bicycle possession barrier, the gender age barrier, and the car barrier. And as regards the policy implications of my results, I believe that the development of cycle infrastructure, the safety of cycles, the incentives to purchase bicycles or bicycle sharing systems, and car restriction measures will probably strengthen citizens' sense of having the means, ability, and opportunity to use bicycles. But it's also important to design soft policies like promotional campaigns and emotional marketing. This is a very hot topic right now in Europe, the emotional marketing, that focus on the positive aspects of cycling, and in this way we expect to improve citizens' internal assessment of the bicycle use benefits, namely attitude, I've put this here. I'm not sure yet. I don't have evidence if this will happen, especially among the group of committed car users, but probably this is a hope, my hope, to do that. Now, we have seen that probably we have a positive attitude of Greeks to use bicycle, but we don't know where exactly they would like to do that. So I'm going to present the results of a second study here, where I had, along with my colleagues from Athens, to explore this question in the study about the planning of the Athens Metropolitan Cycling Network. It was a study conducted for the organization of the Master Plan of Athens in the framework of an update of the Master Plan of the city. Normally, I would travel you from Patras to Greece. I think it's about the same distance from Davis to San Francisco, something like that. And I'm going to say a few words about the characteristics of Athens. Has a population about 3,700,000 inhabitants, a quite high residential density, about 200. And as you can see, the model split, the car ownership is 370 cars per 1,000 inhabitants. As you can see, private transport is about 47%. Public transport is quite high, about 40%, but walking is quite low, about 9.5%, and cycling, of course, is about 1%. Actually, very few cycling in Athens. So, our aim in this study was to plan a cycling network that will cover daily activities, providing safety, directness, convenience, and attractive routes. That's normal targets for a study like this. But our strategic choice was to avoid a strictly top-down approach. So we didn't want, in this study, to stay in our office to plan a network and then bring it to the organization to approve it. So we'd like to hear what cyclists would like to have in this network. So we tried to hear them. I'm not sure if it was success, but we tried to hear them, and it seems that they were happy with that because there was a whole discussion in their environments, digital environment. I mean, social media, blogs, and their websites about this study and the results, and that was nice for us too. So we developed a 4-step methodology to plan this network. We first identified the major urban poles as the nodes of the network. In the second step, we developed cycle route scenarios within the zones connecting the nodes of the network. The third step, which is the core of the whole process, we evaluate these scenarios using participatory methods and select the optimal scenarios. And finally, we assess the coverage of the network and finalize it. Now, this is the first step. We identified 8 major urban poles, which actually were predefined from the Master Plan of Athens. We just add this one here, which is the university center of Athens, like a campus. We are right here, and we thought that it would be a major node in a cycling network. So we connect all the centers one by one, and we define 14 zones connecting these major urban poles. And then we assess the width of the zone is about a mile, about 1.5 kilometers, in order to secure the directness of the connection between the urban nodes. And as you can see, we assess the coverage of the urban activities with a special interest for cyclists, like universities. We saw that we cover about 94%, and here is transit stations, railway station, metro stations, not bus stations, which is at least 54%. The second step, we developed the scenarios in each zone connecting the nodes. The scenarios derived from our team using as basic principles safety, directness, comfort, and quality of urban environment to design these routes. Finally, also we take into account and use as scenarios Greek Cyclists Organization early proposals, which were some routes that the Greek Cyclists Organization proposed from their experience. They had, and they have produced also a map with these routes, so we include them in our process. And finally, we organize a focus group with 10 experienced cyclists to hear them, and I will describe how we integrate the results of the focus group later. In total, we produce 49 scenarios for these 14 zones, and now I'm going to show you one of them. I think it's the most important because it connects the two most important poles of Athens and Piraeus. As you can see, we have 4 scenarios here. The black one follows a major artery. The blue one follows a railway station, a railway line. The white one goes down to the coastal line, and the red one is a mixed along the railway line, and then to next to a major artery. This one, from here to here, must be no more than 10 kilometers, less than 10 kilometers. And this is the third step. We developed here a sub-methodology in order to evaluate all these scenarios you saw before. In the first step, we select the evaluation criteria, then we quantify them using GIS software. We determine the weights in order to apply multi-criteria evaluation, and finally, we configure a draft plan for the metropolitan network. We didn't have any idea about the profile of the Greek cyclist. No data were available for that, so we decided to do a preliminary web survey with a sample of 428 participants. We know what we may have bias here, but it was the best we can do in order to have a first profile, in order to use it for our focus group. So what we found in this web survey is that Greek cyclists are mostly young, highly educated men, which is quite common with other, I'm not sure if this is the case for Davis, I don't know, but we can discuss it later. And so according to this, we invited 8 men and 2 women for our focus group. 9 were under 44 years old, and 8 had at least a bachelor's degree. And these were experienced cyclists, and I know we can open a whole discussion here, but we can do it later. Yeah, we used, actually we asked the help of the cyclist organization to disseminate all these, our questionnaire through their websites, blogs, and all that stuff. So that was our methodology. And these are the evaluation criteria we used: energy consumption, junctions density, traffic intensity and speed, legibility, natural and built environment, activities coverage, centrality, accessibility to urban parks suitable for cycling and not urban parks in general, and accessibility to transit station. I mean here railway and metro stations, not bus stations. And in the next step, we try to quantify its criterion for each zone, for each scenario. Here is our example for the Athens-Piraeus zone and how we quantify energy consumption. You can find details in the paper for that. What I can say here is that we use a 1 to 100 scale in order to be able to compare the results between the different criteria. And this is the process we use to weight the criteria. We organize a 2 days workshop. In the first day, we ask the participants, the 10 participants, to fill in this form here in order to evaluate each criterion, the importance of each criterion for them in a 1 to 10 scale. We collect the results and map them on Google Earth, and then we invited them in the second day, and we showed them the results, and they had the opportunity to mentally connect their evaluation of the criteria with specific planning outcomes. And then we asked them to discuss it again and reach a consensus as regards the weights that would give to each criterion. And here are the results for the group weights. Greek cyclists believe that energy consumption, junction density, legibility, and centrality are among the most important factors for designing the network, while factors like accessibility to public transport stations or accessibility to urban parks or natural environment is not so important. And this makes sense to me if we take into account that we talk about a metropolitan cycling network where speed is a major issue and not a network for recreational purposes. So people believe that energy consumption and junction density is very important when you design a network like this. So we took the results and apply a final round of multi-criteria analysis and found for each zone which is the optimal route. For example, in our example for the Athens-Piraeus zone, the fourth scenario was proved to be the optimal one. It is the scenario that follows the railway line. And we did that for all the zones, and this was our result. Here is our the connection along the railways line between Athens and Piraeus. In the next step, we try to evaluate the coverage of the network because we saw that we probably have some black holes in the city. So we did buffer analysis in a 500-meter zone along the routes. This is about 4 to 5 minutes cycling with an average speed of 17 kilometers per hour. And we did find that there are 5 main black holes in our network. So we got back to our pool of scenarios and for cycle routes, and we added 22 complementary segments to the network in order to cover these black hole areas. And this is our final result. It comprises 36 cycle routes, and it has a total length of 226 kilometers. We separate two implementation phases, trying to fulfill the criterion of continuity right from the first phase. It's the green network here. And also, based on our coverage analysis, we try to fulfill the criterion of 5 minutes to reach, for every Athenian to reach a cycling network branch. And in summary, what we did in this study was to plan a metropolitan cycling network for Athens, but to avoid also a strictly top-down approach, and this way give a meaningful role to end users, which really enjoy that, and we saw that in the discussion in their community after the study. We developed for that purpose four successive steps methodology, and in the first step, the basic shape of the network was defined based on the urban structure of Athens, which is radial, and we developed 49 in total cycle route scenarios satisfying the principles of safety, directness, comfort, quality of the urban environment, including also the cyclist organization early proposals. We used 11 criteria to evaluate these scenarios, and we saw that energy consumption and junctions density were the most important criteria. We applied multi-criteria analysis to find the optimal scenarios for each zone, and we saw that cyclists prefer main arteries for a metropolitan cycling network, prefer main arteries with straight, legible tracings and gentle slopes. And we tried also to fulfill the criteria of 5 minutes for every Athenian to reach a network branch. And we proposed 2 phases for the implementation, trying to have a continuous network right from the first phase. And before closing my presentation, I would like to refer to these few sentences here that I wrote after John Pucher's visit in Berkeley last semester. And I think that they also reflect what I think from my research about cycling and how you can promote it in the city. It says that when you build it where they would like, I mean cyclists, discourage car use and promote cycle culture, they will come. It doesn't matter what comes first, but it's sure that all together can create a success story. And I have here the 2 studies that I presented to you today. The first one is going to be honored hopefully soon from International Journal of Sustainable Transportation. The other one is already online from Elsevier. But I can also send this study here to anyone who would be interested in. This is my email. Of course, you can also scan my QR code with all my details. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very interesting.
Yeah, there are definitely different attitudes in Greece as it is all over Europe. So actually, I feel that Southern Europe is something totally different when it comes to and probably there are some explanation to weather or because most of Greeks think that it's very difficult due to weather, or they use it as an excuse. Yeah, heat. Yeah, yeah. Bicycle was one of the main modes of transport in Greece back in the 60s, before the invasion of the car. Later than US, and of course later than the rest of the Europe, we had the invasion of car about 70s and 80s, and then it went down. Now there is a revival of cycling. I'm not sure yet if it is a absolutely positive attitude for bicycling due to environmental reasons, or it is economic reasons that push bicycling back into life. I can say that there is an increase in bicycle sales during the years of the crisis, the last 3 years of the crisis, about 25%. Probably this is due to economic reasons. But my research shows that it's not. There is also a part of Greeks that feel that they are environmentally concerned and all that stuff. So, to conclude, there are definitely different attitudes. It is sure that a large part is due to economic reasons, but I think also there is a part of Greek population that think about the environment and what cycling represent. Maybe they will see it as an exercise. So it's. I think it's mixed. I don't know if I answered your question. Okay. Yeah, I could say like that. Yeah, yeah. I would say that it's definitely not the same reasons with Northern Europe that push Greeks to cycle again, because, for example, Holland had an increase after the 80s, while Greece remained to 1% until 2008 or 9, probably. Probably there's a slight increase right now, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah. The central government doesn't actually invest in cycling. There are some effort in regional cities, mainly small and medium-sized cities, and the municipalities there have developed some networks, but this is not a central policy. So they still have to make a lot of steps until we. And actually, cyclists ask the central government to proceed with a more comprehensive plan about not only cycling about sustainable mobility. So it's some inspirational mayors around Greece that promote cycling. That's what I perceive from what's happening. Yeah, probably, yeah. That was, I was thinking.
Sustainability is the motivation?
For that mayors, probably, yes. I mean, they are concerned about the environment. Maybe they see that they need, that maybe for the economic development of their city, they see that it's better to have cyclists on the road. They consume more, maybe. They see it's better for tourism. I don't know exactly. Probably these are the reasons. We did that. We did the study back in 2011, I think, and until then we have no reaction. So I'm not so optimistic, especially during this period. Actually, we have been asked to do this study by an inspirational team, by a team that was in charge at the time, but I'm not sure until we overpass. It's like Maslow's pyramid, that they feel that they need to cover the basic needs and then to go to more advanced needs. The interesting thing here is how do you define basic needs and how you define the advanced needs. I think it's more complicated. I don't know. Yes, please. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And actually, we had this question during the whole process, and especially during the focus group. And we have included criteria like traffic intensity and speed, which make you not feeling quite comfortable, not exactly air quality, but traffic intensity is a proxy maybe for that. And we saw that cyclists, for this kind of network, prioritize speed. So for a metropolitan network, they need to go to their destination as soon as possible. And for that reason, they don't really care, or it's not so important for them if they have traffic near them. I have to say something here that we told them, because it was our decision, that all cycle routes will be separated from the rest of the traffic. So they already knew that they won't share the same space with the rest of the traffic. So if the time that they knew that they would have a separate lane to cycle, they don't really they downgrade criteria like traffic intensity or speed, and they prioritize criteria like energy consumption or junctions density that would lower their speed, and or access to urban parks. They don't really care about that. And for for metropolitan networks. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I would expect the secondary networks that feed the metropolitan network to have a very beautiful natural environment, access to parks. You need like that. I mean, the connection from the neighborhoods to the metropolitan network, it's like they think the metropolitan network like cycling highways. So they don't really care about the environment next to. If they had the opportunity, it's a compromise. I need speed where I would have speed where I will have speed where I have straight roads, and so I don't really care if it is not. There's no so much green and all that stuff, but we didn't ask them about their neighborhoods and the connection to the metropolitan network, but I would expect to ask access to parks and lower noise, traffic, and all that stuff.
Railway network that you were mentioning, railway lines,
Yeah.
are they freight lines or they're just suburban railways or passenger only? What kind of railways are they?
No, they're not freight. It's metro lines, so it's passenger lines, and some station of the interurban network. Some stations, because other stations goes out of the city, so we don't really care about them. And we didn't include a bus station. It's also interesting that they don't really care about the stations of, and probably this is bias from the experienced cyclists, because they don't really care where the stations, the metro stations are, because they think that they would cover the whole the whole destination. They will go straight to their destination without using public transport, which is not the case for a user which is not experienced. We know that inviting experienced cyclists, we would have some biases, but it was a decision of our study.
Pedestrians, so sometimes with focus groups would be as well useful to have like a variety, because preferences are completely different.
Yeah.
Well, I like your method. I mean, you can apply your method to different segments of the population. See what kind of routes you end up with.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
segments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cyclists.
Yeah.
Did you screen also what kind of fees they do? Is there minimization fees? Do they commute by bike?
Actually, yeah, I have some results for that. Hopefully, I'm going to be published soon. But not not many questions. We had how often they cycle, what kind of trips, what they like, what they don't like. But mainly we focus on their profile because there were no data about that. And we didn't know who to invite to discuss about cycling. And we think that this sample here, 400 people, is quite good given that cycling in Greece, cycling share is about 1%. So it's yes, please. We have a question here. Okay. If I got right the question, we did the following. We draw some scenarios, our research team, based on our experience, and we also try to include scenarios from the cyclist organization. They have done this work before us. Actually, it was mostly an experiential process for them to draw some lines on a map that they would like to be a part of the metropolitan network. So we bring together our experience, our, if you wish, technical experience, with the experiential way of drawing a network that cyclists did in their plan, in their scenarios, and bring them together, and then ask them, the cyclists, to evaluate the criteria to select which of them are the best. So in this way, we try to include what they think about their network. We try to balance our views about the network with their views about the network. I'm not sure if we did well. Probably the result will answer to that if they're going to build this network. But this is the way we did it. There's no first or final result. I mean, we brought all the scenarios together for each. Let's say the example that I showed you. We had the nodes. We had scenarios connecting them. One of the scenarios I showed you between Athens and Piraeus was a proposal from the cyclists organization. Okay. The other one was our proposals. So we used the criteria to select which of the four is the best one to be included in the network. And that was our final selection for the network. Make sense? Okay. Yeah, of course. This one here. Yeah, I mean, this result with social norms. I think it was the most interesting part of my research here. because this contrasts the results from more mature countries, like Davis, like Delft, like I have found more other studies from Northern Europe showing that when you have the infrastructure, then you start taking into account what your social environment says about your behavior. When you don't have, when you're poor and you don't have the infrastructure, you don't really care what they say. I need to be safe first, and then hear your voice, your opinion.
Hierarchy of needs idea again.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that, then there's other factors.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is
And
describes Davis pretty well.
yeah. Yeah.
We need to do more comparative work to really.
You're absolutely right.
Sort of think about the stages of bicycling.
Absolutely. And it was very interesting when I read your paper that social norm was a very important factor with different aspects between Davis and Delft, but still was an important. And safety was not so important because you have safety, you have infrastructure, it's already there, so you don't really care. You take that for granted. It's okay. I saw a question there. No, it was only about cycling.
And then also if maybe there's social effects influencing the things that people care about, like safety. If everyone's talking about, bicycling is not safe, that's kind of the social context that people think about it in. Maybe that's relevant also.
You mean what the important others think about driving to affect to affect your choice about cycling?
Well, I guess I was asking two things. One is if a norm is to drive, then maybe it's people are driving because that's the norm kind of in the other direction. Then my other question is about whether, people's the attitudes are likely also shaped by social factors or social influences. So I was just kind of trying to ask about that, if you think that is happening at all, or how you see that as a potential factor in this, or not.
Yeah, I think I would buy the first choice. That maybe social norm is car-driven, so you think that cycling is an outlier and it's not a choice for you. But you still don't care what others think. If you don't feel that you're safe to go cycling, actually I don't really care what are you going to say about this behavior. Because I don't feel, I need to have infrastructure, and then maybe I can discuss with you, what do you think about driving, about cycling? You need to fulfill the first level of the pyramid, maybe.
That box will factor in as a model. Is there any possibility that that sample size issue that plays into social norm as well? So many people had bicycling as part of the social norm, but it just didn't show up statistically in this data set. But that
I would start the other way. I think the sample size was pretty decent, and
This was a general
yeah, yeah.
This is not the experience.
Okay.
Subsample of that.
Yeah. The other, maybe another explanation would be, and I think I wrote that in my paper, that habit appeared to be an important factor in cities where cycling was a tradition for many years. And I've seen papers for that. And especially Northern Europe again. So maybe an explanation is that habit has not the time here to be formed. So if you don't have habit, you don't have a relationship to the intention to use the... Actually, habit is very, very low here. And I think that's a way that I explained this non-existence of the relationship. I think countries like... It was 2 or 3 papers that show this relationship between cycling habit in particular, and one of them referred also to Barcelona, and that was the only case that didn't comply with this thought, because Barcelona doesn't have also a tradition in cycling. But it's still much more than Greece. That's my view. Yeah. This one. I use as standard the Eisen's question, which actually formed this theory, the theory of planned behavior, and has detailed instructions in his website for the TBB part of the questionnaire, which is the attitudes, the social norms. This is more or less fixed with some changes. The other part of the questionnaire, I use the new ecological paradigm for the environmental concern. And also, I also see other studies for the rest of the questions to get ideas how to capture that or the other things, especially as regards the motives of car use, the instrumental. There's many studies out there that have explored the effects of instrumental motives, effective motives of car use. So that was the way that our questionnaire was. And of course, we used the response frequency model for the mode choice habit. Last part of the questionnaire.
So this first part of the study was based on a rather small sample size. They were the phone interviews that you did with patterns, right?
It was 370 interviews.
They were the same people that were doing the phone interviews, or there was different samples?
This was a phone interview, a random digit dialing sample.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 307 interviews.
Or are you planning to do a like the similar samples in some other contexts, like Marina, Tenso, or in some other cities, even internationally, because the context may play a major role.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Still being in Greece, like moving from the small town Patras, around 70,000 inhabitants, to Athens, 3.7 million.
Absolutely right. In my discussion in the paper, I suggest comparisons first of southern to northern European countries. First, the extension of this survey to other southern European, and then comparison to northern, and then international comparisons, which will give definitely more reliable results. You will have a full picture. I would definitely like to see a comparison of a city from Greece or Italy or Spain with a city from Denmark, and then Davis, and what's the other extreme in the U.S.?
We can find many of those.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's a totally different context, and then the situation will become extremely complicated. Probably that would be interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's the right
Yeah. Thank you.
I think your mode share is
When I'm visiting from the university. Sorry for asking so many questions. First of all, you presented 2 papers, which causes us to have twice as many questions. I've been here for a year. You're welcome.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah. Maybe you can, have a break and then come back.
That's my plan. Is that your plan?
That's true.
Some people do it. I came here at the beginning. It was supposed to be only 1 year. And that was like 6 years ago.
Well, Lisa, you were asking about fall classes. I thought, he's going to stay.
No, I'm still thinking about sending one of my PhDs
Oh, right.
to visit. Study bicycling. But I think she needs to see bicycling in the Davis context and check out Portland. Yeah, because then I think you can't just look at one context. Until you like in Davis. That's why I may send her. Force her to audit Deb's class.
Yeah.
Not studying this here.
No, that's. I don't know, the right or the left.
But when you get to Delft, maybe we should do some more.
Maybe.
Think about that.
Yes, in some way I have to, the cycling research needs to meet the land use transport research. I don't know where, but
That's what I keep thinking too. Yeah, but land use has not been a big part of the cycling research. Yeah. I mean, distance is the big thing, which is a land use thing. And otherwise, it's the infrastructure and the attitudes.
we don't have data for that.
In visual
there's a whole bunch of cycling stuff that includes some parameters from the built environment. That is like route choice and stuff, but not pure land use transport research for cycling.
Colleague in Montreal, Miguel.
Yeah.
Just the
Ah,
proposal stage.
No, we have submitted our proposal, and it's quite difficult. Actually, I don't know. It's in their office, but I can't say in which office if they think that they. I think that they have other priorities right now. We will look at it.
So he's sitting